The modern landscape suggests that visibility is the only currency worth holding, yet the truly influential figures move through the world like shadows across a dark floor. We are conditioned to believe that success demands a stage, but for those who understand the mechanics of power, the loudest room is often the most vulnerable. There is a quiet tension in seeing a billionaire in a frayed cotton shirt, a deliberate choice to remain unindexed by the predatory gaze of the public. Privacy is no longer a default state for the wealthy. It has become a sophisticated defensive strategy used to navigate a world that equates attention with ownership. The man sitting in the corner of the airport lounge with an old book is often wealthier than the one broadcasting his watch to millions online. Anonymity offers a specific kind of freedom that money cannot buy back once it has been traded for the fleeting dopamine of social validation and status. We mistake silence for a lack of ambition, failing to realize that the most significant moves are made in the vacuum where no one is watching. The desire to be known is a common human frailty, but the discipline to remain unknown is the hallmark of a mind that has mastered its ego. In a society built on the transparency of the middle class, secrecy becomes the ultimate luxury, a gate that keeps the noise of the masses away. To understand why the wealthy choose to disappear, we must first accept that the rewards of recognition are often far outweighed by the costs of exposure. The psychology of the private wealthy is rooted in a fundamental shift from seeking external validation to maintaining internal control over one's environment and personal narrative. Most people use consumption as a signaling mechanism to prove their worth, but the elite recognize that signaling only invites unwanted competition and social friction. When you broadcast your net worth, you effectively paint a target on your back, inviting litigation, resentment, and a relentless stream of requests for unearned capital. Behavioral psychology suggests that the need for status is hardwired, yet the highly intelligent satisfy this need within exclusive circles, rather than seeking mass public approval. The fear of the crowd is a rational response to the volatility of public opinion, which can turn a celebrated figure into a social pariah overnight. Privacy acts as a cognitive buffer, allowing the individual to make decisions based on logic and long-term strategy rather than the pressures of public expectation. Those who stay private understand that information is a resource, and giving away details about one's life is a form of unnecessary and dangerous leakage. There's a profound psychological comfort in knowing that your neighbors have no idea you could buy the entire street if you truly desired to do so. This creates a power imbalance where the private individual observes everyone else, while remaining a mystery to those who might seek to exploit their financial position. Wealth changes the social contract, and the private individual realizes that most people do not want to see you succeed. They want to participate. The instinct to hide is often a byproduct of seeing how the world treats those who are perceived to have more than they actually deserve or need. True status is not found in the eyes of the many, but in the silence of a life that requires no outside confirmation to feel substantial. By removing the performance of wealth, the individual regains the ability to move through society undetected, maintaining the valuable cloak of being just another person. The psychological cost of being watched is a constant, low-level anxiety that erodes the quality of life, which is exactly what the wealthy seek to avoid. Control over one's time and image is the ultimate goal, and that control is lost the moment you become a character in the public's imagination. A private life allows for a purity of experience, where events are enjoyed for their own sake, rather than for how they might be perceived online. We see a growing trend of stealth wealth, a conscious effort to scrub the digital footprint and live in a way that leaves no breadcrumbs. This behavior is a rejection of the modern attention economy, prioritizing the preservation of assets and mental peace over the vanity of being widely recognized. To the private wealthy, the public eye is a hungry entity that consumes everything it touches, leaving only a hollow shell of the original person. They have learned that the only way to truly win the game is to play it so quietly that the other players don't even know you're there. In a quiet suburban neighborhood, a house with a modest facade often masks a portfolio of global assets, its owner driving a 10-year-old sedan. This individual understands that a flashy vehicle is merely an invitation for a mechanic to overcharge or a neighbor to harbor a hidden resentment. The true luxury for this person is the ability to walk into a hardware store without being recognized as the man who owns the block. Social dynamics shift the moment a bank balance is revealed, and the private wealthy have seen friendships dissolve into a series of transactional requests. A woman may wear a watch worth a small house, but because it lacks a famous logo, it remains invisible to everyone but the connoisseur. She navigates high-end galas and local grocery stores with the same neutral expression, blending into the background of a world obsessed with being seen. By choosing an unpretentious lifestyle, these individuals opt out of the constant social climbing that exhausts the energy of the professional middle class. They might host dinners where the wine costs more than the furniture, sharing their success only with a vetted circle of peers who understand the code. This behavior is a form of social camouflage, allowing the wealthy to observe the genuine character of others before deciding who is worthy of trust. When a person believes you have nothing to offer them, they reveal their true nature, a data point the private wealthy value above all else. We see this in the way certain families travel, using private terminals, not just for comfort, but to avoid the digital footprint of commercial manifests. Their digital presence is a ghost, a collection of shell companies and private trusts that shield the physical person from the digital mob's curiosity. Even their philanthropy is conducted through anonymous foundations, ensuring that the act of giving does not become a magnet for 1,000 more hands. A businessman might fly coach to a meeting, not to save money, but to remain a nameless face in a crowd of sleeping strangers. He finds a perverse pleasure in being the most powerful person in the room while being treated as the most insignificant by the staff. This reversal of the status game provides a clarity of perspective that is lost when one is constantly surrounded by the sycophants of fame. The private wealthy often dress in uniforms of high quality, unbranded fabrics, a sartorial choice that signals competence to the elite and nothing to the masses. They buy land in areas that are not trending, preferring the silence of the woods or the anonymity of a dense, unglamorous urban center. In these spaces, they are free from the performance of wealth, allowing them to focus on the preservation of the very assets they hide. Life becomes a series of deliberate omissions, a masterpiece of what is not said, and what is never shown to the outside world. The mechanism of privacy is deeply tied to the concept of psychological safety, where the absence of an audience allows for a more authentic self. Cognitive dissonance arises when a person must maintain a public persona that contradicts their private reality, leading to a fragmentation of the human psyche. By staying private, the wealthy avoid this split, maintaining a singular identity that is not dependent on the shifting whims of a fickle public. There is an inherent darkness in the realization that the more people know about you, the more leverage they have over your emotional state. Information is a liability, and the wealthy treat their personal data with the same rigor that a bank treats its most sensitive financial ledgers. we must consider the predatory nature of human envy, a primal force that drives people to pull down those they perceive as unfairly advantaged. The private individual recognizes that equality is a social myth, and that flaunting one's edge only triggers the leveling mechanisms of the frustrated majority. This creates a hidden fortress of the mind, where the wealthy person lives in a different reality while appearing to occupy the same one as you. They have internalized the truth that attention is a tax on time, and every minute spent managing a reputation is a minute lost to growth. The social mechanism of the tall poppy suggests that the flower that grows highest is the first to be cut, a lesson learned early. Privacy is thus an evolutionary adaptation, a way to survive in a hyper-connected environment that seeks to commodify every aspect of human existence. There is also the matter of security, where the physical threat of kidnapping or extortion is mitigated by simply not being a person of interest. The wealthy understand that fame is a cage with golden bars, and they would rather have the keys to the world than a seat center stage. Psychologically, the need for privacy is a sign of high ego strength, as the individual does not require the mirror of society to feel real. Most people are terrified of being forgotten, but the private wealthy are terrified of being remembered for the wrong reasons by the wrong people. They view the public as a chaotic system of unpredictable variables, and the best way to manage a system is to remain outside of it. The chilling reality is that while you are looking for them, they are watching the patterns of the world, including the patterns of those looking. This creates an intellectual distance that allows them to see trends, risks, and opportunities long before they reach the mainstream consciousness. Their silence is not a void, but a sophisticated listening post from which they gather intelligence on the human condition without being influenced by it. In the end, the most powerful position is to be the observer who is never observed, the ghost in the machine that runs the world. There is a quiet intelligence in seeking the truth behind the curtain, a trait that separates the casual observer from the truly discerning mind. If you find value in these cold dissections of human behavior and power, you may find a home among those who subscribe to this perspective. The greatest myth regarding the wealthy is that they are all desperate for the spotlight, when in reality, fame is often viewed as a sign of new and unstable money. Old capital understands that visibility is a tax on freedom, a burden that forces one to live according to the moral whims of a judgmental and inconsistent public. We assume that a lack of social media presence is a sign of being out of touch, yet for the elite, it is a sign of being untouchable by digital outrage. The misconception that money buys a louder voice ignores the fact that the most influential conversations happen in rooms where phones are strictly prohibited. People believe that the rich want to be envied, but true power finds envy to be a dangerous and inefficient byproduct that creates unnecessary friction in business. There is a dark reality in the way the public consumes the downfall of the visible wealthy, a blood sport that the private individual watches with a detached caution. The millionaire next door is not a motivational trope, but a survival tactic used to navigate a society that has grown increasingly hostile to individual success. We mistake a lack of branding for a lack of quality, failing to see that the most expensive things in the world often carry no name at all. To the private wealthy, the idea of an influencer is a tragic comedy, a person trading their soul and privacy for the hollow validation of strangers. They recognize that the moment you become a public commodity, you lose the ability to change your mind or pivot your life without a public explanation. The truth is that many people who appear wealthy are merely high-income earners trapped in a cycle of performing success to maintain their precarious social standing. Real wealth is the ability to walk away from any situation without anyone noticing your departure or knowing where you have gone to hide. The public's obsession with transparency is often a masked desire for surveillance, a way to ensure that no one is getting ahead without being monitored. By rejecting this transparency, the private wealthy maintain a psychological edge that allows them to operate in a reality that is entirely of their own making. They understand that the most effective way to protect a treasure is to make the world believe that there is absolutely nothing there to find. We live in an era where the act of disappearing is the ultimate rebellion, a silent protest against a world that demands to know everything about everyone. The choice to remain private is not an act of snobbery, but a calculated preservation of the only things that truly matter: peace, time, and autonomy. When you stop looking for the approval of the crowd, you discover that the crowd was never really looking at you, but at the reflection of their own desires. The private wealthy have simply reached this conclusion sooner, realizing that the noise of the world is a distraction from the quiet work of building a legacy. There is a heavy, lingering peace in the realization that you owe the world no explanation for your success or the way you choose to inhabit your life. As you move through the world, notice the people who do not seek your gaze, the ones who seem perfectly content to be invisible in a crowded room. They are the ones who have mastered the game by refusing to play by the rules of the attention economy, finding strength in the shadows we all fear. Perhaps the most uncomfortable truth is that the person you have been taught to ignore is often the one who holds the most power over your environment. In the end, the world belongs to those who can observe it without being seen. The quiet architects who build their empires in the silence of the night. True wealth is not measured by what you show to others, but by the depth of the secrets you are able to keep for yourself. Would you like me to generate a series of minimalist, dark-themed thumbnail concepts and titles that would fit the Psy Wealthy brand for this script?